This place is called Austin Speed Shop. It's just a custom car shop, you know. We specialize in like old style craftsmanship and stuff that's timeless. Today I've never felt better about myself and where I am in life because I've eliminated everything that's not working on cars or motorcycles. And that's truly what makes me happy. Back in the early 90s when I was working for Performance Machine, you know, motorcycle building and custom bike building wasn't really a profession. Once I came up with a product, which was the Fenders, and started making them, then when money started coming in, then it all of a sudden made sense to everyone and helped my business grow. So we're gonna make some Fenders. It's kind of cool because my whole business like really took off when I started making Fenders, and I refined this whole process of metal spinning them in halves and then welding them together. And like, you know, I made the first big Fenders for like fat tire Harleys back in the early 90s. You know, we did that process forever, for better part of 20 years. And then now we've kind of, you know, but I don't even need to do it like that. I can make them, you know, as I've learned more and more metal work, I can make them just by flat sheet, you know. And so I figure we should do one with like out of aluminum for my little knucklehead. You know, pretty simple stuff to do, but you know, this is something that people can learn, you know, as they get more tools and better stuff in their garage, they can learn how to do it, so. In the last year at the speed shop, it's like I've kind of like managed from afar and just given blips of advice here and there, but now I've stepped in and kind of taken an active role in managing the place and giving it structure and basically helping push those guys and let them, you know, they don't know how hard they could be working, trying to get projects out the door. And just, I don't know, I can only sit back and watch so long, and like I just want to push them and keep getting cool stuff out there. So I'm good at making crews work.
Working with Jesse's been really cool. Been picking up a lot of small things and big things. I mean, the more things you can do with one tool, like opening up more options when building something, instead of like doing it one way that I've always done it. Now there's like a few more. So getting a job done faster is gonna be easier, or like figuring out how to make a part in one piece instead of like two maybe, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, he's a good teacher. Guys like him almost don't even have to teach. Just being able to sit next to him, you pretty much get to see his process and how Jesse like goes about doing things, and like almost what you focus on the most and what your like end product is, and like the ways to get there, and like just your little techniques that you picked up over the years and years and years. I busted that out in like an hour and a half the other night.
Why is it all rusted?
It was just a rusty piece of metal in the yard.
Why didn't you clean it before you did it?
I did. It's been like 3 days though, 4 days, it started rusting again. Just wanted to practice making an edge over though, and English wheel.
Looks good. When you build a boat, it'll be good for the boat trailer.
All right, that's what I figured.
Where's your practice piece at? To try to impress the teacher.
Gonna do like a wire edge?
Yeah, we could do wire edge on one.
Could we? I really want it.
Okay.
I just haven't.
I'll show you how to do it. Take that wiring off.
It's unloading.
We might have to like.
Oh, it's not touching.
It looks like it's like wasn't machined or something. There you go. Cute. It's like a front fender off of something. That's why it has the double lip on it. Yeah. Triumph or something. British crap on an American bike. Ooh. Does that have mill marks on it? Should be all right. We can anneal it. We don't have a radius gauge, do we?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if you had one.
You got cloth tape? A cloth tape measure? Oh, I have one. Okay. So we'll measure this thing first.
Pull it out of your utility belt.
Yeah. This tire's pretty square, which I don't even want to entertain making it square because I'll probably change it to a nicer radial tire. I just want to get like how much coverage we need. So right there is about 10 inches of material, you know, giving it about an inch coverage. And you know, for car tires and bike tires, this is kind of almost a car profile bike tire, but the average is they grow 5% in overall.
While it's driving?
Yeah, so that's the rule of thumb. So if this thing, you know, just equal, if it's 28 inches tall, then 5% of that is how much it's gonna grow. I usually set it a minimum 3/4,
Yeah.
you know, but cars you can set a little bit tighter, but if the tire pressure gets low, that thing's gonna oblong, you know, like a top fuel tire, and it'll burn the paint or kill the fender. Bikes, you also gotta consider too that to get it on, get the chain on, you have to be able to slide it forward, you know, and then have a certain amount of adjustment. So you probably need a little bit more clearance in front than you do at the visible gap. You know, I always cheat. You know, I'll fit it super tight here so it looks like it's a close fit and leave the sides long, and then I'll adjust it, and then I'll take a scribe off the axle and I'll cut the sides out so it looks like it's fit perfect and tight, but it has extra gap in the front. So the fender will be one radius, and then the actual side cutout will be offset.
Yeah.
And
That's a good
I
idea,
cheat
yeah.
like that so it looks like it's super, super tight, and it's got, you know, when you're standing at the back of the bike, it's like right on the tire, and you're like, man, that looks good. But really, it's got plenty of room around there, so you can adjust it, or if the axle loosens up and it cocks the wheel or something, it doesn't kill it. So, you know, that's the factors you got to think in, you know. So we'll go a little extra length. So 28 inches, and then probably go 29, so we have extra wing for that 1/2 inch flap. So what are we, 11 by 29? So do you want to cut a piece 11 inches by 29 inches?
Cool.
And then we'll anneal it up and we'll start shaping. I'll show you guys how to figure in the radius. So 11 by 20,
You
29.
wanna go with this flat edge? You wanna?
Yeah, use the two available edges, you know.
Basically, just 29 by 11 inches. When you use this straight edge over here, it basically gets it square on the corner of the piece. So all I have to do, instead of like marking it a couple times and then putting a straight edge on it and pulling it across, I can just use this angle right here, and I know it's straight.
Why are you doing it upside down?
So I can see it better.
Oh, okay. It's cutting it pretty straight though, I'll give him that. That's because it's upside down.
The roll finally caught up with it.
We're gonna cut them corners off anyway.
When you anneal aluminum, you gotta stick it in water after.
You can. put that soot on there, you know the trick, the soot burns off right at the temperature point when this becomes soft. So, but you got to be careful though, because it's only about another 100 degrees before it melts.
I haven't really got the opportunity to work a lot of aluminum, so it's really nice to see how it moves and stretches. I've worked copper before, and it's kind of almost close because you can anneal it.
It'll start to turn like a little yellow once it gets ready to melt.
And annealing, basically what you do is you heat it up like we were doing, and all the molecules in the metal pull apart. And it's like all those metals, a lot of the non-ferrous metals, they separate really easy. Their bonds aren't as strong, like on a chemical level. So when you heat it up, it spreads it out, and then you cool it with water. And since you're cooling it with water, it freezes the molecules pulled apart. So you can basically like move the metal with your hands almost.
That's official hot.
So is there a difference between air cooling it and water?
When you anneal it, it'll freeze it in a cool position, so you can anneal it, you can quench it, and doesn't affect it at all.
So aluminum is way different than steel in that fact, so it's really cool to be able to work it and learn it from a guy who's done it a bunch of times before.
That's good, thanks, Magic. So we can put that on there and see, you know, obviously no problem with the long way radius. You know, it's just pulling the sides down. But we don't want to start with it like this, because when we shrink the sides will pull it in even more, and then our radius will be too tight. You know, and then we'll have to open it up, which in turn will like open this up, you know, which is a lot to understand, but you'll see. So, you know, really want to start. We can give it a little bit of head start, but we really want to start with it almost flat. Pull these sides so we get this compound curve, so this whole thing, you know, bends like this, curves this way, and then curves this way, so it fits on the tire. I'm pushing this down a little bit to get it going in the right direction, you know? So you can see that's pulling that down a little bit. But what'll happen is we're only affecting this area right here, probably the first 2 inches. So that's gonna leave this, you know, kind of flat. It'll have a little bit of crown just from the metal being affected, but it's not gonna have like a big radius like we want. So we got to go in farther. So we'll start taking some bites. We're using that little Eckold forming tool, you know, and it works pretty good. You know, and like, I mean, it's an awesome machine. I mean, if that's all you have, you're doing pretty good, you know, because it kicks ass over any other like shrinker that I've ever had. The Eckold shrinker, it has 2 dies that pinch in, and they press together and they grab the metal, and then they move towards each other. So it goes down and bang. So it just grabs the metal and drags it in, shrinking it, making it thicker, and making that outer dimension smaller, and that gets it to curl over. Once we get it kind of radius, so I'm pushing each one, I'm pushing down. You can see the little bump. So I go down, and then all I want to do is get it to about 90. Once we get it to 90, you kind of want to stop, because that's when it's going to start curling. It's getting there. There. Feel how hard it is.
Yeah, let me show you. So shrinking it back's almost like not work harding it, but it kind of
that
is.
thing grabs it with those teeth and then drags it together. So you know, it's kind of,
It's like the opposite.
it's
of
forcing
annealing.
it, you know. A hammer's compressing it into shape, and this is like dragging it. You know, both ways work, but this will get work hardened where it just won't move anymore, which is kind of good because it's slower. A hammer will just, as soon as it gets work hardened, it'll just split the metal. You don't need to do the center because it's only really work hardened where we're.
Yeah, and pretty much when you anneal it, it basically stays annealed until you work harden it to a certain point, right?
There you go. You can quench it if you want. Use those little flat pliers. Soften that a little bit.
It's still kind of hard.
Yeah, it's still kind of hard.
Yeah, it's a lot closer.
Yeah, and once we wheel this and pop it up, then it'll kind of suck that in even more. The English wheel is, it's just two dies, a radius bottom die, and they have a little contact point, and it's just basically pressing, you know, a line. And you could like overlap the lines, and the line just follows the radius, and then that bottom die will dictate what your part radius will end up being.
When you're using this thing, you try to pull, like you try to keep it with the shape of the roller, right?
Yeah, you go straight in, straight out.
Because if you pull it
so
up,
if the middle's arced, you arc it.
right?
You know, the best thing to do is get low so you can see it. You know, that way, because going this way, you know, unless you're like rolling an edge or something, which you rarely do, you don't ever want to kink it or push on it, or you don't want to help it like you do with the shrinker. So you're just gonna it up. What we might do is cut it, weld it together,
Pull it in.
because we got nice sides. That's a nice shape for that kind of tire and stuff. So, and the wheel, you know, that's what I started off on. I was an English wheel guy for 10 years, for a decade before I switched to power hammer. And so I'm really, really proficient at it and can like really wheel pretty great, but man, it's a lot of work. And I was like sweating my off. The whole trick to this is just steering it, man. It takes a while to learn how to steer an English wheel, you know? And the best thing to do at first is just go super slow. You know, I'm just going in a zigzag pattern.
Yeah, it looks good right there.
Looks pretty symmetrical too. I mean, these are kind of messed up, but once we wire the edge,
It'll
then
pull it in.
No, it doesn't pull it in. It just makes it so it stays. You can put it right where you want it, and bam, you know. That's good. If you guys want to, let's measure it and see where we're at. So we're at 10. Cut 3.5 out of the center. You'll lose a 1/4 inch when you cut it, so cut it down the center, and then cut 1.5 inches on each side, and that'll give us with 6.5. And then while we have it apart, then we'll put it in the planisher and kiss these sides a little bit and just take a little bit of the harshness out of it. And then I'll show you how to do a rib. We'll do a rib down the center, maybe some kind of little design or something.
Cool. Sounds fun.
It's a good way of marking the center on this.
Just eyeball it, dude. Don't even try to like, don't break out rulers or anything like that. Just whatever feels good. Luke, you know, he's so quiet and so like subtle demeanor, you know, but he's like really, really good fabricator and really, really open to like input and suggestions, and he wants it, you know, he wants to do the best job possible, and like, you know, he's gonna be one of the best, I feel, one day. I love Magic, man. He's like such a like bright, shining, like he just like wants to learn everything, and the fact that he made that little flat Fender piece on his own to practice, you know, it's like he's thinking and he's reading and he's looking at everything, and like Magic's getting there. He's really good. He's getting broad, you know, and he's not just fabrication, you know, he's like motors and trans and doing blacksmith work, and he just kind of wants to try it all. I think I need to spend way more time with him and, you know, try to teach him and give him everything I have, you know.
Almost looks right on already.
You can tell I've done that before, how I nailed the gap and radius, like just by eyeballing it, by how much, what affects that is by how much I step it and pull it down as I step it, because I'm like basically making it an octagon shape, because I go deep and bink and then pull it out at half a stroke, then more, half a stroke more, half a stroke more. So that octagon shape is what determines this radius. We'll come in tomorrow and we'll bead that, or maybe we'll do it out at the house where it's cooler. Okay. We'll bead it and then do the wire edge, and then should be good to go.